Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my monologues. I'm sitting here, you might think a bit strange. I'm sitting here by my Essie Ironheart, which was an inheritance really. When my dad died, left a bit of money, and I wanted to do something to remember him by. And my mum, she didn't really have very much. I guess she contributed. I like to think of this beast, which you can see is lit here with the fire going on a very hot day. It's in fact the evening. I'm actually recording this Saturday evening, and it'll go out tomorrow. And I'm cooking. I don't know if you can see it tomorrow behind me here. I'm cooking some vegetables, and I've got some burgers in the oven. All farm food. And I'm smoking my pipe. I didn't smoke it in yesterday's show, which actually I recorded this morning. Different pipe. This is a lovely little, I think it's called a Prince or something. Oh, Soccer. A lovely little shape. And I've been to my girlfriend's, the lovely Julia, who I adore, by the way, her mother's 70th birthday celebration. And there was a lot of that side of the family, and it was lovely to meet them and talk to some of them. And funnily enough, there was a few awake people, well, at least one particular who was awake, who came up and had seen my show. I don't think the rest of them had. And that's fine. It's always very odd when people come up to you and say they watch your videos. You don't know whether they're going to say something detrimental to you, like you're a nutter, or you're raving mad, or why do you make those sort of videos? I'm trying to find a pocket in here. Here we go. And I want to touch on that a bit today. I know this is going out on a Sunday. It's bank holiday weekend. So I'm just going to take my time whilst my dinner cooks. And I was inspired today to talk to you about the subject I want to talk about because I was watching a priest's progress. I'll put the link in the description. I've spoken about Father John several times. I admire him very much because he's somebody who, it seems to me, is prepared to take a risk and just try things. He does things on the spare of the moment, like buy a Land Rover that's perhaps not 100% working and may not be 100% the model that he thought it was. But I admire people who can make snap decisions and go, do you know, I'm going to do that. And then whatever the consequences, they just get on with it. But he mentioned just on the end of his video, this will be last night to you, but it's tonight as I was watching it, which inspired me. And a number of things have happened to me recently, which sort of brings these things to attention. Actually, let me just adjust this light a bit. Oh yeah. I always set up lights. I try to make the videos look nice. I don't know if that's a bit blind in my face, really. I might just put it back as it was. As I was leaving the house to go to this event, I saw the postman crossing the road. And I know I often get post, as we all do, brown envelopes with your name on it, and you think, hello, is it my name or is it a legal fiction name? Should I be sending that back and saying, I'm not quite sure who you're writing to. My Christian name is Richard, and if you want to write to me, just write to me as Richard, not this legal fiction thing, not this dead entity, this fake name created by the Crown Copyright. But let's not get into that bit. And the postman who was opposite, and he takes a bit of time, he goes through, you know, and then he comes round and he comes to mine. I thought, well, I'm just about to go off to an event, and I just wondered if you had any post. And he's a very lovely bloke. I'm going to I'm going to put some money in an envelope and give it to him and surprise him when I next see him, because I've done a few things to my house, which I've taken the number off the door. And I've renamed the house. And now whenever I write to these official entities, I don't use their system anymore. I use my own system. The name of the house, the road, and the town. And I don't bother with the district and the postcode. And at first the postman was, it's like, oh, do you mind putting these things in? Because sometimes it's difficult to know where it is. And I want to give him a gift because I'm training him up so that he does deliver to my house, my home, and not just to a plot on a map, because that's what the postcode is. It's really just a plot on the map. And people have told me it's a military thing. I don't know how true that is, but it does go to a plot on a map, not to a place on the earth. Anyway, I saw him and I said to him, if I'm just going, I don't know if you've got anything for me that I need to know. And he handed me a parcel. And he said a strange thing. He said, you're the famous Richard Vobes, aren't you? And I said, I'm hardly famous. He said, oh, no, I was trying to deliver a parcel and my colleague saw it and recognised the name. And he says, oh, yes, that's the famous YouTuber, Richard Vobes. And when he relayed this to me, I felt a bit weird about that because I don't think of myself as being famous. Somebody at an event that we were said to me, what's it like being famous? And I said, I don't know. When I'm famous, I'll let you know. And I really don't feel famous. People are, Steve McQueen is famous. Clint Eastwood is famous. The King, I suppose, is famous, whether you like him or loathe him. Mr. Starmer is infamous. But I don't think of myself as being famous. So, but it made me think that fame can come not just in the old-fashioned conventional way of television and film, but now YouTube. But of course, you're only really famous to those people who've seen your videos. Obviously, you're not famous to all and sundry, whereas, well, perhaps Steve McQueen and Clint Eastwood may not be famous to a much younger generation who have yet to discover the films that they were in. And sometimes the lovely Julia, my wonderful partner, will say to me a name that she's a little younger than me, so I'm incredibly lucky. And it will go over my head. I said, well, I don't know who that is. Who's that? And she'll say, oh, blimey, they're famous. And I said, well, it's funny that, isn't it? Fame. And I want to really mention about humility. Somebody else said to me, I had a WhatsApp chat, and this gentleman said to me, I always thought you were controlled opposition. I thought you were a shill. Now, up until I was talking about the stuff that I often talk about on this channel, I had never heard of the term shill. I didn't know what it meant. And then I started to hear this term controlled opposition. And I was at an event as well, and somebody asked me in a question, are you controlled opposition? And I thought, well, how do you answer that? Because if you were, it doesn't really matter what you say. Well, it doesn't really matter whether you are or not, because, at the end of the day, people have to make their own mind up. Anyway, this gentleman said to me, he says, I always thought you were controlled opposition. And then a friend of mine, because I'd said something in a video, you see, and he said, I know that's not true, so therefore Vobes is misdirecting people. And he stopped watching. But his friend said, yes, he did say that, but he addressed that later on. He put his hands up and says, no, he got that wrong. He didn't believe that what he thought was correct, he got wrong. And he said, I didn't know that. And he said, I just want to apologise to you because I thought you were this and I don't think you are now. And it's no point in me saying I'm not or even that I am, because, who's going to believe you? I know who I am, and hopefully by my deeds and what I do and what I say, and if I think about things and I think, I don't know whether that's really advice that I should give. And I've gone down this rabbit hole very quickly, and on the channel I've had some very interesting people, and I don't always know if they're 100%, but I'm interested to listen. And I suppose what I'm trying to get to is that humility. a sense of being humble. And there was a time, just as Father John was saying in his video, that he was looking for fame and looking for, I suppose, some sense of recognition. But I've fallen into this. I didn't expect, when I started to talk about what I talk about, to get anything like the views that in the past I had. I mean, you'll notice now my views are right down. I've been striked off from YouTube, and what I put up, apparently, according to them, is harmful content. And I've been now demonetized for 7 months. And that's a humbling experience, I believe me, because when you rely on the audience to keep you going, and they don't have to, they really don't have to, but they come up to me and say, you know, you're very brave for talking about what you talk about, or you've changed my life, or you've solved this problem. I had a gentleman email me who said, thanks to your interview with Mike Holt, I used the bills of exchange and cleared my mortgage, £130,000. He didn't then say, Richard, here's, you know, a couple of grand for helping me out. And that doesn't matter, not after the money. I was thrilled that the fraud that had been carried out on him, as all mortgages are, that he had managed to solve that issue and could relax. I didn't want anything for it. I started out as an entertainer busking in town centres, juggling and unicycling, fire eating, doing some mime, robotics, lying on a bed of nails, all the sort of circus skills. That's what I used to do. And I feel now I'm still busking on the internet, and that's a humbling feeling. It's humbling that anybody would want to toss a few coins to. Now, this isn't a plea for people to send me money, because I'm just so thrilled that something that sitting here by the fireside, smoking my pipe, might resonate with somebody and help them. And I'm just so in awe that it can do that. That this means of communication can do that. But as you go through this journey and you realize actually what life is about, you realize who you are, what you are, that actually fame, fortune, the trinkets, the material things in life is not where happiness lies. It's not where your goal really is, but actually helping people, being kind and being humble is so satisfying and gives you a warmth sense. It's the same as smiling at someone in the street and they smile back, and then they're smiling too. I can hear the potatoes cooking away. You don't need much in life. You need some friends. You need time for yourself to understand who and what you are. You need time to sit quietly and cogitate, ruminate. You need time to think about what's important in life. And it isn't being famous, and it isn't having a lot of money. I live in a very run-down, 2 up, 2 down little terraced house. And I do want to get onto the land, and I do want to wake up in nature, and I want to have some animals, and I want all these things. And they'll come at the right time. Sorry about the gurgling of the pipe. I think this tobacco is a little bit wet. And we're in this crisis, for those that know. I mean, a lot of people don't even know we're in a crisis. They don't really have an idea. They know something's wrong because the government now are really showing their mask. They're showing their teeth. and they're showing how much they don't like you. But have you noticed there's a bit of a change? Somebody sent me a photo of the Metro headline, which said, I think I've got this right, I think it was the Metro headline that said, the government are now concerned about losing cash, and they want to see people using more cash. Now, 6 months ago, the story was they wanted everyone to go digital, and I do wonder. I wonder now if we're seeing a change, because it's my belief that a number of the miscreants, the nefarious, the dark forces, have been approached by, let's call them, guiding lights, the white hats, the good guys, whatever you want to call them. And they've been given a choice. You'll either go to a tribunal and something nasty is going to happen to them, or you could change your tune. And I think that we're going through that. And I think that as we go through that, and people who've been talking about the things that have happened, the vaccine harms, the fraudulent money creation, the banking system, the spraying of the skies, all the poisons in the water, in the atmosphere, as all of this is going to slowly change, there will be those that will be ready to go, I told you so, I told you, you didn't listen, I told you, you're an idiot, I was right. I feel that we need that humility, that we don't need to brag that we were right, that we noticed it, that we knew that a certain medical intervention was not good for people. We fought for those things, we tried to say them, people did ignore us, but it doesn't matter in the end. It doesn't matter that we were ignored and sidelined and made fun of. We have to swallow that and be humble about it, because ultimately it seems to me that what we really want is a peaceful, loving, caring life. And we don't need to jump on our soapbox and be famous and have all the trinkets and all the money. And we have to just really go, we've done our work and it's working in our favour. And I think it is. I'm not saying it's not going to be turbulent, and some people are suffering, and I think that's, well, it's awful. It's awful that anybody is suffering. But we're all learning something, and I think humility is vital. An example of that is yesterday I read an excerpt from my book, Biggleswick, the Town That Wouldn't Comply. And somebody very kindly, well, Judy, if you're watching, she said, oh, that Richard Vobes, he's such an idiot. I'm paraphrasing, she didn't say these words exactly, but she said, he read a bit, and 1 minute this character is coming out of his bungalow, the next minute he's going into his flat. Which is it? And, in the old days, I might have prickled and gone, oh, it's just semantics, I've got that wrong, why did you pick it out? She's right. And I'm very thrilled that she mentioned it, because I don't want people going, oh, bloody stupid, who edited this book? Who not noticed that? So I know that needs a little bit of work and a little bit of editing, and, I hadn't thought, and you get lost in the story and the people you create in making a book. And whatever it is, we do get a bit prickly when people find fault with it, but actually that's a lesson to be learnt. And I think that's where humility comes in and says, no, actually, you're quite right. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Thank you for even listening to the video in which I read the blooming excerpt from. So I think we all need a bit of humility in this world at the moment, because as things change, and I sincerely think they're changing for the better, those of us that were screaming from the rooftops, we don't need to tell them, I told you so. We just need to quietly go, thank goodness people are safe, protected, and having a beautiful life, because that's what I believe is coming. And if we focus on that, if we focus on the things we want to happen in terms of a much more prosperous, abundant, beautiful, peaceful, loving life, the chances are we'll get it. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching my videos. And those that have donated, you know, it's so difficult to convey what that means, that people in these hard times have put their hands in their pockets one way or another and kept channels, not just mine, but others. People like Chris Brooks, for example, is doing his damnedest to try and convey interesting messages. A small channel, but growing. And I appreciate those small channels. Somebody asked me to come on their channel. They said, oh, you're a big channel. I don't, you know, you won't want to come on my little channel. I've only got whatever it was, you know, 500 viewers or something. And I said, but I was in your position once. And of course I'll come on your channel. I'm honoured to be asked. And when you hear stories of the real famous people, you know, the stars who push their fans away as they've been waiting for 2 hours at the theatre door, and they just go, oh, it's the viewers that put you where you are. Without the viewers, you're nothing. And so I respect the viewers, even the ones that have a go and put snide comments or think I'm wrong. I appreciate them all, because why not? Why not? We've all got an opinion, we've all got a point of view, and we're not all the same. And that's the beauty of living in a world that we live in, where we're not all the same. So thank you for listening. I shall get back and get my dinner ready. I think I need another log on the fire, so I shall do that. And I should go and have my burgers. And if you're interested, for those that are, check out the Vogue show, links in the description a bit further down. My pipe smoking channel it is. I talk about various bits and pieces, but I'm trying some snuff. Do you remember people used to, yeah, you might find that amusing. Until next time, bye-bye.